Hi guys, it's Owen here from InvestinU again with our tips, tricks and shortcuts. Today I'd like to talk to you about my favorite top 10 tips when it comes to Microsoft Word. Now, if you're like me, I've been working with Word for quite a number of years now, and even with all these fantastic tips and tricks and shortcuts, Microsoft Word is just one of those applications that you still want to pull your hair out. But I promise these tips, these shortcuts, these tricks, these will make it that bit easier. Okay, so let me just show you an example of a couple that I'm going to go through today. So I want to just show you highlighting tips. So anybody who's been following my series of videos from Excel to Word to Outlook know I'm a huge fan of highlighting tips when it comes to Word, Excel, PowerPoint. So I'm going to start off the session with a few highlighting tips. I want to show you delete an entire word where you can write anywhere. Format Painter, I'm sure a few of you know this one already. The super find and replace, guys. Okay, I know a lot of you use it for just finding a word, replacing one, but it's also really good for finding formatting and replacing with a little piece. I'll show you that as well. Very common question I get asked: how do I change the font, the default font in Microsoft Word? Easy enough to do in Excel, and PowerPoint is slightly different when it comes to Word, so I'm going to show you that too. Change case, one of my favorites. Page break shortcut. Okay. Now, I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail about the page breaks or section breaks, but I just want to show you that it has a really neat shortcut key, the screenshot tool, and then I'll finish off with the clipboard. So, without further ado, let me just step out of that, and I'm just going to open up a document that I have here, standard document with text in it. You can see 3 or 4 pages in there. So, first one I wanted to start with was, how do you highlight? What's the best way to highlight when it comes to Microsoft Word? So, I'm sure most of you know at this stage, or the most common way to highlight is to do what we call the click and drag, as many people do. Well, there's obviously much easier, much quicker ways to do this. So let me start. First one I'm going to go and show you is how to highlight a word in Microsoft Word. So for example, I'm going to pick this first word here, business, for example. So rather than me trying to click and drag, and often it highlights too much or too little, easiest way, go to the word itself and simply double left click on it. As soon as you double left click on a word, it highlights that word. But it adds an extra little bit to it, by the way. And what you'll also notice is not only does it highlight the word, but it highlights the space to the left-hand side. Because if you've highlighted that manually yourself, often you forget to highlight one of the spaces. So when you delete it, you're left with 2 spaces. This way, if I delete that word now, it not only deletes the word, but it deletes the space. So a simple double click on any word, doesn't know how big or small it is, highlights that word in the space to the right hand side. Brilliant. That's the highlighting of a word. What about then highlighting a line? And not a sentence, but a line of text. So for example, if I wanted to highlight a heading, easiest way to do it, come into your left hand margin and left click once, and look at that. You can see if I left click beside any line, you can see it highlights that instantly for me. As I said to you, very, very handy for when you want to highlight headings. That's a line. So what about a paragraph then? So if I said, do you want to highlight that first paragraph? Again, what do most people do is that old click and drag, which is fine. But what if that paragraph was spilling across 2 different pages? Okay, so you could have a paragraph that easily, like this one here, that spills from one to the other, and you're trying to click and drag. Okay, so before I show you, look, let's try this one here. If you want to highlight any paragraph in a Word document, go into the left-hand margin, beside the paragraph itself, and simply double click. Double left click, and it highlights that paragraph and only that paragraph. So if I do it here, watch this. So that's really neat. Perfect for, as I said to you, if you've got a paragraph that spills from one page to the other, just makes the whole process that bit easier. And then what if I said to you, well, let's highlight the entire document. I want to change the font or whatever it is, font sizes, that kind of thing. Now, anybody who uses Word, and this is just a little bonus shortcut key, anybody who uses Word probably knows, on a regular basis that is, probably knows when it comes to selecting everything in a Word document, the shortcut key is Control A, called the Select All shortcut key. But the alternative, it's always great to have these alternatives, come into your left-hand margin and click 3 times. And as soon as you click 3 times, you can see it highlights the entire thing for you. Same way the Control A does. All right, and it's highlighting the entire document. And the last one I want to show you then when it comes to highlighting, and a particularly good one, is what if you wanted to highlight a sentence? So I'm going to pick a sentence here. Let's start with this one here. Secondly, this assignment will examine, and you can see it starts here and finishes over here. All right. Now, again, I don't want to do the click and drag. So a really neat tip to have is this. The next time you want to highlight any sentence in Word, hold down your Control key and simply left click once anywhere in that sentence and it'll highlight just that sentence for you. Hold down the Control key, watch, left click once and look what it does. Okay, really, really useful when it comes to Microsoft Word. So look, there's a couple of highlighting tips that can make life that little bit easier for you when it comes to working on Word when you're formatting. One little tip that I always give my users is this. See, when it comes to Microsoft Word, and this is why I give these highlighting tips, a bonus one as well, enter your information first, then worry about the formatting. The mistake that a lot of users make when it comes to Microsoft Word is they start entering the data and format at the same time. That carries the formatting down, so then you spend half your time trying to clear that formatting and so on and so forth. Anyway, there's your highlighting ones. Another really nice one that was on the list there is how to delete an entire word. So for example here, I want to delete the word business. Now, I've made it much easier for you because you can now double click and just hit that delete key and guess what? It'll do that for you. However, the alternative is this. Click at the end of the word, hold in your Control key and hit the backspace once and it'll highlight the word. So rather than backspacing to get rid of all the characters, well, you can see a nice easy one. Click at the end of the word, hold in your Control key, hit the backspace once, and it deletes the whole thing for you. Another nice one to have. Another one they've added here, I'm just going to open up a blank Word document, Control N here, is the ability to click anywhere now in a Word document and start typing. And the way you do that, because before you had to kind of hit your Enter key if I wanted to come in, obviously you didn't use the tab, the space. You now have new in Microsoft 365 is the option to double click. So I double click anywhere and you can see it should allow me to type from that area. Okay, so that new double click feature just allows me to type anywhere I like. Really good one to have because you know yourself, anybody who's done it, you found yourself trying to enter down, tab across. It just makes it easier, simple double click. Now, another one, I talk about it all the time. I find it particularly useful. I want to talk about the Format Painter. Watch this one. If I select this first heading and I apply a bit of formatting to this, keep it simple, let's bold it. Let's change the font color to blue. Let's change the font size and we'll even center it. Now, what I want to do is I now want to take that formatting that I applied to this heading and apply it to the rest of the document, or the rest of my headings that is in that document. So what I can do here is I can select that piece of text, nice easy one, left click, come up to my Home tab and use the Format Painter. Now I'm sure you've probably used this before, and here's how most people use it. They come up to the Format Painter, click on it once, click on the new area, and you can see it applies to formatting. But you can see in this document, I have multiple headings. So I'm going to be back and forth every time I want to use the Format Painter. But here's a great little tip to have, and it's this. The next time you want to use the Format Painter, if you want to use it once, click on the Format Painter once. If you want to use it multiple times, double click. And look, I can now go down this document and apply this formatting as many times as I like. All the way down the document, and you can see it just becomes that bit easier. When I'm done, click back on the Format Painter to switch it off. Nice and simple. And it just makes that whole single click, use it once, double click, use it multiple times. Now, I did mention to you earlier on the find and replace. Now, you might say, well, find and replace, yes, I've used that before, find a word, replace it. But you'll notice I did also say to you earlier on that it can be used to change font. Now, I'll give you an example. I don't like the blue that's being used right here. Maybe that should be red or whatever, or a different shade of blue or whatever it is. Okay. Now, rather than me going up here, changing it, then double clicking, which I can do with the Format Painter, here's an alternative. Watch this one. I go into my Home tab. I go to Replace, and you can see it brings up the Find and Replace. Okay, dialog box, but I'm going to click on the More button. Now, watch this. I'm not searching for a piece of text, but I'm going to click on the Find What? Format, font, the color. Remember, it was this one, but maybe I want to go with a darker one. So I'm going to go with dark blue. Change it to dark blue, click OK. So I'm saying, sorry, I did that wrong. Let me do that again. So what am I trying to find first? So if I go in here and I go Format, Font, color. That's what I want to find. That's the color I want you to find. And I want to replace it with that dark blue. So then I go back in, format, font, and you can see here, I want to replace it with the dark blue and click OK. Got it right in the end. But you'll notice I'm not putting any text in here. I'm just saying find that font, replace it with this one, replace all. Look, favorite replacement. Yes. So all replacements, 7 replacements done. Close out of this. And if I go back in here, look at this. Every single one of those is now using the dark blue instead of the light blue. So rather than you manually going down and trying to change it yourself or trying to use the format painter, there's a brilliant one, the find and replace. It'll do it all for you. Now, again, just moving on. Another really common one, I mentioned it earlier on, is it's a question I get asked all the time. How do you change the default font in Microsoft Word? You can see this one using Calibri at the moment. Maybe you like the old school Times New Roman or Arial or whatever, but you don't have to keep changing it from Calibri to this every time you go into a Word document. Okay, so how do we change that default font? Well, here's what you need to do. Stay in this document here. I'm going to go to my Home tab. But what I'm looking for is the font grouping, but I'm looking for this button here. It's called a dialog box launcher. If I click on it, you can see it'll open up the font dialog box. And all I need to do, and it's this simple, is to choose the font that I want. So if I wanted to say, for example, Arial or, whatever it is I'm looking for. So maybe Arial, choose your style, size, then simply click on the set as default. Now it'll give you the option just to change it for this document, but in this case, we want to change it on the normal.dot template. So in other words, every time it opens up a brand new document, this is the font that it's going to use. And that's how you change the default font. Again, very common question. So I said I'd throw that in there as well. Now, if I go back to a blank document here, here's one I find. And as you all know, as I said, if you've been following my videos, one of the things I haven't taught myself how to do over the years is teach myself how to type. So if I want to type a sentence, often I'm just looking at the keyboard, and it's only when I look up that I realize I've just typed the whole thing in uppercase. So what do most people do in this case? They'll switch off the caps lock, highlight the whole thing, delete it, type it out again. Or, it's a great one, go to your Home tab, and under the font grouping, look for a button called Change Case. Click on the drop down, select sentence case, and you can see there's a few of them, lowercase, uppercase, capitalized, toggle, but I'm going to go with sentence case, and hey presto, look at that, how cool was that? I know for someone like me anyway, it's brilliant. And again, you can see it fixes it for you. Great news, I'm sure you probably know this, that feature also exists in PowerPoint and Outlook. It even has its own shortcut key. Shift F3 will toggle you through the different options that you've just seen there. So your change case, absolutely brilliant. Again, moving on very quickly. Page breaks, you heard me mention them. Again, I'm not going to go into these in too much detail, but if I want to move, say a paragraph down, or I want to move paragraphs down or a heading down or whatever, how many of you are inclined to click the start, hit the enter key till it eventually fits it down? I mean, probably one of the worst things you can do when it comes to Microsoft Word. The best way to do this, click at the start here and use your page break. Now I could go insert, page break, or I could go into layout and go into breaks and page break. But like most things like that, because it's so widely used, it has its own shortcut key. So if I click the start where I want the page break to appear, and I simply hit Control and Enter. Control and Enter is the shortcut key for your page break. Now, moving swiftly on again, I just want to do two last things here. So I'm just going to come to the end of my document. And let's say I wanted to take a screen grab of something. Now again, this tool exists in Word, it exists in PowerPoint, Excel, most of the Microsoft Office documents, but it's under your Insert tab. It's absolutely brilliant. It's called the Screenshot tool. So if you wanted to take a screen grab of anything, now if you've been using Microsoft as long as I have, the old school way was hit the print screen button, send it into Paint, cut the piece out you wanted. It took hours to do stuff. Okay. Now, over the years, now they're using the likes of the snipping tool, the Windows snipping tool, but Microsoft have added this screenshot tool, and it's just brilliant. So for example, if I wanted to take a scrap of something on my desktop, say the recycle bin or anything, or a menu, whatever it is, all I have to do is bring the Word document so it's now sitting on top of it, go to my Insert tab, go to the Screenshot, screen clipping please, Word will temporarily minimize itself, and all I have to do is draw over the area that I want to take the grab off, and you can see it takes it straight away. So it can be absolutely anything. See that? So if I wanted to take something off, say PowerPoint, watch this. So my lovely list that I have here, look, bring Word so it's sitting on top of it, insert. Would you like to take an entire grab of the window? No, just a part of it, screen clipping. Look at this. Draw over the piece you want, and hey presto, you've now got it. Absolutely brilliant, but it's called the screenshot tool. And the final piece that I wanted to show you, and I'll finish up with that then, is your clipboard copying. So I've got 2 Word documents open up here. Sorry, I'm going to open up a Word document here. Now imagine the stuff that I wanted to take from this and bring it over to this one. How many of you would do it piece by piece? Take your first paragraph, copy it over, take your image over, Well, one of the features that's kind of underused now is the clipboard. Watch this. So if I take that first paragraph, maybe I wanted to take actually the heading of the first paragraph, and I copy that. Now, what most people do is they'll go in and paste them back and forth. But if you then bring up your clipboard, so into the Home tab, into the clipboard grouping, look, little dialog box launcher, and you can see there it is there. So if I then wanted to take something else, so I want to take, say, this paragraph, the HR structure part, and the heading too, that, copy that, look, and it keeps adding to the clipboard. And then I'll just take, say for example, I'll just take the image that I want to take across, and I'll copy that. Okay. All I have to do then, back into my document, and now I can start pasting them in. Look, bring up the dialog. There it is there. So let's bring in the first paragraph. Then I want the image, and then below the image, then I want the second paragraph. I mean, how much easier is that? All I have to do then is clear the clipboard, go back to my other document, and start taking other stuff over across. So rather than doing one piece at a time, you can use your clipboard and use it multiple times. Absolutely brilliant. Look, I hope there's a couple of tips in there, guys, that will save you a bit of time when it comes to Microsoft Word. As always, guys, don't forget to keep an eye on our Facebook page. We're on LinkedIn. We're on Instagram. You'll find us on our YouTube channel with all these videos too. You can also follow us on our website at www.investinu.ie. As always, guys, I'll have another one of these in a week or two. Stay safe, and I'll talk to you soon.